Very good day to you all. Today I'm going to be presenting on a very exciting topic on Global Trends 2030. Dadirayi Madzima is my name from the Scholarship Social Business Unit of Higher Life Foundation. My presentation is based on a document entitled Alternative World Global Trends 2030 that was published by the National Intelligence Council of America in November 2012. The outline of my presentation: I will define the key terms, the introduction, I'll get into the objectives and analyze the individual empowerment as a mega trend. I'll also look at the strategies for the future, and then we conclude. One of the words that we are going to find in this presentation is mega trends. And what are mega trends? Mega trends are transformative global forces that define the future world with their far-reaching impact on businesses, societies, economies, cultures, and personal lives. Maybe as a way of introduction, have you taken a moment to think what kind of studies will your children embark on? Or else, have you taken a moment just to think what kind of skills will organizations be looking for in individuals, say in the year 2030? The Global Trends document is built around the need for leaders to translate the mass available data into actions to prepare for their own future. Also, the overriding theme for the Global Trends report is that we are moving towards a more distributed world where consumption is spread more broadly than ever before as consumers become more and more mobile and the middle class expands globally. Also, production is becoming more distributed as customers and consumers increasingly co-create solutions and experiences, and as networks become a key organizing mechanism for innovation, production, marketing, and sales. The National Intelligence Council actually identifies 4 mega trends that will affect the future by the year 2030. However, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to focus on one of the mega trends, which is individual empowerment. But before I get into the gist of that presentation, I'll give you an overview of all the 4 mega trends according to the National Intelligence Council documents. And what are the objectives for the presentation? 1, to provide a framework for thinking about the future so that decision makers stay ahead of a rapidly changing world. Number 2, to encourage the decision maker in different spheres of influence to think and plan for the future of their organizations or their personal lives. Also, to increase chances of a positive future unfolding, and also to avert the chances of a negative future to unfold. How will I achieve this in this presentation? By addressing what is happening currently, what are the resulting changes, what are the opportunities, and what are the questions that one needs to ask themselves to prepare for action for the future. Overview of the 4 mega global trends. Mega trend number 1 is individual empowerment, whereby we are going to see the individual taking the center stage when it comes to global politics, when it comes to the global arena. It is the individual who will be on the top of the game as compared to the state that has been running the show for the past, maybe in the previous years. But as we go into the future, the individual is going to be seen at the center of the global arena. Mega trend number 2, we are looking at diffusion of power, whereby we are going to see a rebalancing of power between and among states as we move towards 2030. And this has already begun to happen, whereby we are seeing nations such as China of the global south actually also coming up and also being recognized as a global power. Mega trend number 3, we are looking at demographic patterns, where these are actually changing as we are moving towards the future. Some of the changes that we are actually going to notice is that 1, life expectancy is actually expected to increase. 2, lower birth rates. 3, youth explosion or youth bulge, especially in the developing nations. Megatrend number 4, we are looking at food, water, energy nexus, where in the future there is going to be increased pressure and resources, increased pressure on resources such as food, such as water, and such as electricity. And we actually have already started to witness some of these some shortages because of this pressure on resources. As I go on with this presentation, we need to actually realize that it's not going to be like in 2030, boom, things are beginning to happen. But these are things that have already begun to happen and are unfolding, and will only be magnified as the future unfolds. So, how is the individual empowerment actually going to unfold as a mega trend? One of the things that is going to ensure the empowerment of the individual is 1, poverty reduction, 2, growth of the middle class, 3, widespread use of new communications and manufacturing of technologies and health advances. Having said that, there's also going to be a greater educational attainment, especially for women. And there's actually evidence to the fact that individual empowerment is actually a trend that is that has already begun to happen. For example, in 2009, 27% of the world's population was in the middle class, but by 2030, 60% of the population will actually have moved into the middle class. Also, 80% of the middle class will actually be residing in the middle class by 2030, yet we only had 58% in 2010. And also, one of the things, according to the IMF, is that just having as many women in the labor force as men could actually boost economic growth. For example, by 5% in the USA, by 9% in Japan, by 34% in Egypt. So it's actually showing us that individual empowerment necessitated by education will actually result in economic growth for nations. Also, one of the things that we are going to see is that while the inequality in education and health are actually declining, there will be income inequality, and about 71% of the world residing in about 71% of the world will actually reside in nations where income inequality will be on the increase. So there is need for decision makers to actually start thinking about ways to actually make extra income, about innovative ways to actually come out with extra income to avert these inequalities. Also, evidence of individual empowerment is that 75% of the global population has access to a mobile phone. And also, as compared to 2012, where 34% of the world's population had access to internet, you actually find that by 2030, it is actually projected that 50% of the world's population will now be having access to the internet. And also, one of the trends that we are going to see is that the social media is going to play a critical role into the future. And one of those roles is actually organizing protests, shaping the narrative, and also putting pressure on the international community. And this has already begun to happen. Something just happens today, maybe in the UK. The next day, it's all over the world because of the power of the social media, which is actually going to take center stage in the future. Having said that, you actually see that one of the things that is going to necessitate the empowerment of the individual is poverty reduction, whereby we are saying currently most people are living in poverty, and we define poverty as living with less than $25 a day. But as we go into the future, we are going to get to a stage whereby people will actually be earning between $10 and $100, and then we define those as middle class. So we'll actually see 1 billion people currently are categorized to be in the middle class. But in the future, we are going to see maybe 2 billion or even 3 billion people living in the middle class. And what is the impact of that, or what are the implications? 1, there will be a demand for consumer goods. 2, there will be a value system shift, whereby we are going to see people are now more concerned about issues of governance. People are now more concerned about issues of quality. And also, one of the things we are going to see is the narrowing of the inequalities gap by the year 2030. Though the perception will actually remain that there may be some inequalities that will be existing. Let's take a brief look at the case of India. It is a very exciting case whereby we are seeing a growing middle class. But this is a different kind of middle class, because this is what we may term a virtual middle class. Why? Because we are seeing that though still very poor, they are increasingly demanding their rights, services, and good governance. What's different about this new version of middle class? The difference is that whilst historically we have actually seen that the tool of empowerment has been income, but in this case, in the case of India, the tool of empowerment is telecommunications technology, which is facilitating connectivity, learning, and political engagement. The spread of mobile phones has been a key factor in this shift, whereby India has now become leading in terms of healthcare text messages, dissemination of best practices in agriculture, other fields. Mobile phones are actually used to improve all aspects of life. Cheap computing technologies are actually used to come up with solutions for things like water, for things like electricity, which is actually commendable. And also, one of the factors that actually is going to ensure individual empowerment is education and gender gap, whereby we are saying level of education will determine the economic status of individuals, and this has already started to happen. Average years of completed formal education is likely to rise in the Middle East and in Asia. Global literacy currently are sitting at 84%, and in this 84% there is a rise of women that are actually taking up education, and this has actually changed the status of women, actually giving them a voice and also them taking part in the economic activities of the global arena. Internet is also providing a platform for anyone who wants to be heard, and it is also providing a platform to mobilize others to be heard. What is the role of communication technology in empowering the individual? The increase in the emergence of technologies such as the smartphones has the potential of accelerating empowerment of individuals. Of late, we have actually seen a number of individuals taking center stage where the state maybe was at the center. For example, terror attacks. These are actually perpetuated by individuals like the Boko Haram. This is not a state. These are individuals that have actually become empowered. So there's actually a negative and a positive of this individual empowerment. Also, one of the things is that is actually going to be witnessed because of the role of communication technology is that there's going to be a boundary. There's going to be a blade boundary between private and public. And what are the implications of individual empowerment? One, there's going to be rising incomes and rising expectations. People are going to expect more from their government. People are going to expect more from the market. And also, rising income inequality within countries, education enabling empowerment, increasingly connected populations, faster dissemination of information through social media, which will actually accelerate action. And what are the strategies for the future for individuals, for organizations such as even Higher Life Foundation? One, increase awareness, including knowledge of global trends. Because if we do not plan, we plan to fail. And we cannot plan for that which we do not know. So there's need to actually educate people about these global trends. We can actually take advantage of the students that are at our disposal to actually teach them about these global trends and also open up their minds about the possibilities of the future. There's also need to start thinking and understanding potential risk of technological development and undertake effective technological road mapping. Also, there's need to actually take risk assessment and change management to address complex issues such as security. Remember, we actually talked about the blendedness between the private and the public, which is actually an issue of security. There's need for organizations to guard their property. There's need for our organizations to come up with strong security features. There's also need to increase investment in girls. Actually, as Higher Life Foundation, we can come up with a policy that for every recruitment, maybe 60% girls will be recruited. Why? Because when women's education will actually play a very critical role in the future of eliminating poverty, lessening inequality, and driving economic and social development. Also, there's need for oneself to position oneself as an early adopter of technology rather than a follower, because as we have seen, changes are happening rapidly and fundamentally. There is also need to leverage advancement in technology to develop evolved channels of service delivery that are integrated, quicker, and more scalable. And also the need to address rates of skills obsolescence. Remember, we have said technology is moving very fast and things are changing very fast. So there's need to reskill ourselves. There's need also to actually upskill ourselves so that we do not find ourselves irrelevant in the near future. So in conclusion, I am saying that the unexpected is happening because of the changes, and there's needs to plan for the future so that the future does not happen to us, but actually the future unfolds and we influence the future. Reskill and upskill. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.